All right, dudes, as prefaced on episode 62 of the Spicer Speaking podcast, a palpable pairing of guests. Going to begin with our old pal from the Desert Sun newspaper, where he is a longtime columnist. Prep football season is nigh, starting this week. And then, of course, the NFL season just a few weeks away. We've also got professional hockey kind of on the cusp of it at this point here in the desert proper. Here to discuss all that and probably a little bit more, our pal Shad Powers. Shad, good morning, sir.
Hey, how's it going, Judd?
It's going well. Maybe we sound, or at least I sound, like an old guy, get off my lawn guy, because we talk this time of the year more than we usually do over the course of the summer months. I can't believe football's here. I can't believe football's back. I mean, it's still hot out, man. And the fact that these kids are ready to suit up this Thursday, this week, it's pretty crazy to me. Like if I were a high school kid, I don't know if I would be up for putting on a helmet and pads in these kind of conditions. Doesn't it always surprise you when football comes back around?
It does. This year, I think it might even be tougher because, it does seem like we have this weirdly humid summer that's still happening. And, I think that's worse than your 113 dry for a football team. Our desert teams like to think of it as an advantage when a team comes into the desert from out of town. But unfortunately, it's so hot everywhere these days. I don't think the advantage is quite as stark as it used to be. But yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, school starting in its own right is crazy to me this early, and then a football game on August 18th in the desert is pretty wild. Obviously, the CIF Southern Section doesn't consult the desert when they make a schedule. So obviously it's not like obviously we're sort of in a special circumstance where it is pretty, a little bit rough, but yeah, same as you. It seems like we just finished the spring sports and the last school year, and here we are, and ready to hit the gridiron again.
Yes, anticipate perspiration and probably a little bit of cramping over these at least first couple of weeks of football. Some predictions, some impressions from yourself and Desert Sun colleague Andrew John. We, of course, have the countdown to the Elite 11, which I know certainly local and regional readers readily enjoy. Those being the countdown of the top players as predicted and projected by you guys. Also, earlier this week, had some projections on teams and standings and finishes. Seems to be some consensus between yourself and Andrew that five-time defending DEL champion Palm Desert up for another very strong year. Coachella Valley over in the DVL also seems to be consensus to win that conference.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those, when you're the champ, someone's got to like prove that they're better than you. And in recent years, you're right, Palm Desert in the DEL and Coachella Valley in the DVL have been sort of on top. And on paper, heading into the season, obviously we don't know everything, but there's nothing to indicate that those teams are going to take a step backwards. So I think someone's going to have to jump up and grab it if they want to surpass them. Palm Desert is pretty loaded again, especially with big dudes on the offensive and defensive line. That's what Coach Shane McComb really treasures the most. I think they'll get back to kind of really grounding it out with a running game. They have a pretty neat running back, Dimitri Chester. He's real diminutive, sort of a Darren Sproles looking guy if you want to compare him to an NFL player, but he's got that low center of gravity, little speed, little power even, and I think it's going to be fun to watch him run behind this really big line. And they've got a good a quarterback that played half the season last year, Brady Clemmer, sort of a gamer. To keep the NFL comparisons going, I think of him sort of like an Eli Manning. It's like he's not the fastest guy, he doesn't have the strongest arm, but he just gets the job done. So I think those three things added together, I think will make Palm Desert pretty tough again. There's some other exciting players in the desert though. Definitely Xavier Prep. It might be the most exciting team to watch. They've got a lot of like glitzy offensive players. Ryder Ruiz is the best quarterback in the desert. And so they're kind of fun to watch. They had a big breakthrough last year by tying for the title with Palm Desert, the first ever football title for the school. So that was a huge moment for Coach Dockery and the gang. And then yeah, and it's shifting. But the whole Desert Empire League, I'm excited for this year. That every team, I don't think there's any have-nots this year. Everybody's got something positive going for them. So, it's only a 6-team league playing. So you play, your record is 5 games. I mean, the difference between 4 and 1 and 1 and 4 is going to be like super minuscule this year. So really, it might have been a fool's errand to try to predict the standings, but in that league, but it should be fun to watch. I think every night, people say it, but it actually, I think it's true this year. Every night, someone, anyone could win those 3 matchups each Friday night when the league starts. Desert Valley League, Coachella Valley, Indio, who really sort of rose up last year from the ashes and has a legitimate sort of upward movement going in their program.
Sure.
I think will be up there as well. Could the final game of the year, the classic victory bell game, be a battle also for the league title? That'd be pretty exciting. Indio hasn't made the playoffs in about 18 or 19 years, so that would be something too. If they can, finish in the top 3, that usually secures a playoff spot. I think that's very achievable. So that'll be kind of the things we're looking for in the DVL. Yucca Valley would be the 3rd team I'd point to that has some exciting young players that could contend for the title as well.
Not mentioned Cathedral City Lions. That'll be my assignment for week 1 of the season, kind of in a rebuilding phase. You can check out that as a minor addition to the major work done by Shad, Andrew John, Matt Zielinski, Larry Bohannon, the rest of the Desert Sun team at desertsun.com. I mean, per that coverage, Shad, I feel like the paper has kind of doubled down on prep football in recent years, and certainly this year. I mean, we've got this Elite 11 countdown. We seem to have some additional articles. We've got a player of the week. You guys have gotten really creative with all these different facets. You and I have kind of talked about writerly type questions in past chats. I mean, for you, why does it remain compelling? Why do prep sports and specifically prep football on an annual basis? What keeps you interested and motivated?
I mean, that's a good question, I guess. I just turned 50 this year, so it's kind of fun to, like, obviously there's that little, when you walk out on a field on a Friday night, there is that recapturing of your youth. I still get a kick out of that. The band, the cheerleaders, all that stuff. I like the pageantry still, especially of a football Friday night, or it doesn't have to be football, even in a crowded gym for a great volleyball game or something. I just love that. I still love that feeling. And, just as sort of, thinking of it as the way our job is, I still feel like there's value in, like when we were younger, seeing your name in the paper was kind of an exciting thing. Yeah. Even if you're not seeing it physically in the paper as much anymore, if you're a teenager, seeing your photo on Instagram or seeing your name in a story online, there's still, I know that still sort of gives a boost to them, and I think it's kind of, makes me feel good to know that people are interested still to see that stuff, and we can tell by the reactions we get and the discussion that comes out of some of our predictions and stuff, that there's still a lot of passion behind it. And, we have passion for it too. So it's a good like marriage. But I think, I don't see that going away anytime soon. I just really like it. We always have the same rhythm with the summer off, come back to, action football. I was at a volleyball game last night. It's just fun to see that kind of stuff. I think, and when you have that summer off coming back in the fall, there's something a little extra about it.
From the preps to the professionals, NFL football just about 3 weeks away. Picks on a week-to-week basis in the Desert Sun, compliments of Shad Powers and the aforementioned other fellas that make their weekly predictions. Use the word consensus before. Further consensus in the 2023 Super Bowl odds. Just run down the favorites for you, Shad. The Bills consensus favorite kind of across the board, followed by the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Chiefs, and then the LA teams, the Rams, followed by the Chargers. Do you feel like the bettors are missing anybody there?
I feel like they're pretty quick to write off the Rams. I'm a little surprised they're not, considered maybe the favorite in the NFC over Tampa Bay. Obviously although there is now this little worry about Matthew Stafford, perhaps something with his arm fatigue or something, that would of course be a problem. But I think they kind of won the Super Bowl last year, of course, but also it didn't even still feel like they were quite playing at their maximum level. So I feel like I would instill the Rams as the NFC favorite. Yeah, I do like the Bills, of course, but it's like, gosh, it's hard to believe it until you see them actually make it in the Super Bowl. It was agonizing to see them, get beat these last couple of years in the playoffs. But I do love that team, and I just kind of like how they've sort of built from scratch to be a power without, adding tons of free agents and things like that. Although they're starting to do that to fill those last pieces, which the Rams this last year and the Buccaneers the year before showed it. That's how you do it nowadays. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a team that I feel like people are underestimating a little bit. It's funny to say the Rams, but also the Bengals. I don't think people are respecting what the Bengals did last year either enough.
And I would agree. I mean, the Bengals not in the top 10 in any preseason Super Bowl favorite. They can be had at 22-1 to win the Super Bowl, which they were basically a play away from winning.
Right. I'll put my $10 on that. That's a good, that's some good, good return on your investment there. And they, the AFC is tougher. There's no doubt. There's 6 or 7 great teams, and I think the Bengals are one of them. Why can't they win the Super Bowl? Easily they could. So that you're right. If you're a betting man, that might be the way to go. Somebody like it's funny to think of the 2 Super Bowl champions as these upstart underdogs that I'm talking about. But it is you're right. I think people are too quick to dismiss last year's Super Bowl competitors.
Speaking of true underdogs, your Motor City Kitties, the Detroit Lions, near the bottom. At least we're going on the wagering, coming off a 3-win season, 125-1. Does that feel right for you for the Lions? You think that they can crest the 3-win season of 21?
I think they'll definitely crest the 3-win season. I think they're, I think they're heading in the right direction. I think everyone agrees. They played great, their best football at the end of the year last year. Finishing 3-2-1, which is pretty good 6-game stretch for them, beating some good teams along the way, actually. And of course, they've got better. They had some nice free agent additions. Of course, they had their traditional high draft pick. Did some nice drafting maneuvering as well, using the picks they got for Stafford. So I think everybody's pretty excited in Lion Land as far as the trajectory. Obviously the world is getting to know our crazy coach a little bit now that the team is on Hard Knocks. Good choice by Hard Knocks. I doubt there's a coach that's more like telegenic than ours. Can he coach a football team to a win? I don't know, but he's definitely fun guy to have around. Polar opposite of Matt Patricia, their previous coach. So if nothing else, I think there's reason to be proud of the team. And I think Jared Goff is a fine quarterback still. They have their strength. The Lions' best asset is they have a great offensive line. So really almost any NFL quarterback looks pretty good behind a great line. So I think they can win. I think they can get around that 500 mark. That's sort of what I'm imagining. 7, 10, 8, and 9 type of season.
Yeah, to me, it looks like a sneaky team.
Yeah.
Swift in the backfield, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, St. Brown. These are all palpable pieces to a team that should win more than 3 games. Speaking of 3, focus on week 3. Sorry to interrupt you. Vikings and Lions play for the first of 2 times. That one is in Minneapolis. They play again week 14. I smell side bet.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, what do you think about the Vikings this year?
Feels like kind of every year should be a playoff team, but not a Super Bowl team. Kind of a tricky schedule, which is to say 10 or 11 wins feels hopeful, but 9 or 10, somewhere in that realm. 9, I guess, feels about right to me. It's got kind of like the Lions. I mean, there are a lot of good players there. Of course, have a new head coach, super young guy, and Kevin O'Connell. Hopefully, make a little bit better use of certain offensive pieces, namely Delvin Cook. I think Delvin's opportunities hopefully will increase a little bit more receiving out of the backfield, but they should be good, not great.
Right. That's probably where I would put them too. Yeah, I think another reason for some excitement this year with the Lions is their schedule is pretty available. There's some wins on there. I know when people look at their schedule and see the Lions, they're thinking that's a win as well, but you know what I mean? There's the parity in the NFL, I think, is there. If there's just so many teams that feel like they could be 12-5 or 5-12, and you wouldn't even be surprised either way. You know what I mean? There's a couple elite teams, a couple real bottom dwellers, and then that whole huge middle. It's just about the toss-up games. Does the coin flip your way on the close games?
Vikings deservedly in the middle of that betting pack at 40-1, I should add. Friends, you're tuning into episode 62 of the Spicer Speaking podcast. Shad Powers, columnist for the Desert Sun newspaper, is my guest. Order up a subscription to the Desert Sun, like get the physical newspaper, eat it with your bagel and frosted flakes in the morning like I used to do as a kid, or subscribe online, desertsun.com, where you can read Shad's work as they're prepping for the onset of the prep football season. You can read his NFL picks, and you can read a whole lot of hockey coverage. Shad writes about a lot of different things, I should add. When I'm going to share this out in the social media routes, I was looking for a picture of you, and I found one on a horse from your polo story from the spring. So when I post this out, that's going to be Shad on the horse.
That's a rare photo indeed. I think that's the only time I've ever been on a horse, and might be the only time I ever will be. But that was pretty fun. Yeah, I got to take a polo lesson in January, and that was it was fun, I will say. And being riding the horse was its own experience, but then swinging a polo mallet and trying to hit that ball on the ground, you think to yourself, well, I play golf, I can play baseball, I can hit a ball with a bat. Yeah, it's not as easy on a horse. Shocking, I know, newsflash, but it was fun to learn how to do that. And by the end of the little experiment, I was pretty good at making contact at the very least.
That story from the spring we can read about more recently, along with football topics, is Shad's coverage, along with Andrew John's coverage in the Desert Sun, of our soon to debut AHL hockey team, Coachella Valley Firebirds. Now, the Acrisure Arena, of course, Shad, is still in process, but the season starts in just 2 months, man. I mean, if Acrisure was done, it would feel even probably a more palpable sense of nearing professional hockey. Of course, the arena is not going to debut until December, so we still got about 4 months until the Firebirds' maiden home game. For your coverage, whether it be of Acrisure Arena, whether it be anything about the team, I mean, they put out like 2 press releases a week and have a media conference about once every 10 days. I saw you recently for the Fuego,
yes,
the new mascot of the Firebirds. How do you feel like those stories are performing pound for pound? Are you sensing a lot of reader interest for those?
I think so. I think people are still kind of like not sure what to make of the actual hockey part of it. Who are these guys that are going to be playing? Those are the kind of things I'm trying to learn about myself, A, and then B, sort of share like what is the AHL exactly? Where are these guys coming from? I mean, obviously it's I was kind of fascinated to talk to one of their first 2 players that they signed, a guy that's 24, been playing hockey all his life. And I asked him if he'd ever been to Palm Springs. And he said, Palm Springs, I've never been to California. I've never been to the West Coast. He hasn't been to Seattle. So it's kind of interesting. Like, you forget that we think of a pro athlete as, globetrotting around and being everywhere. But for a hockey player, if you figure, they're from, this particular guy was from Canada, played in New Hampshire, played, he was on a team in Florida. But it's just kind of interesting to think, like, you got to remember these guys aren't just, winging around professional guys. These are like young men who are, experiencing a lot of these things for the first time. And so those are the kind of things I'm learning. That's kind of interesting. It'll be, this is pro hockey. This is big, it's legitimate, but at the same time, it's kind of fun to hear these, how excited some of these guys are to come. And then, but to your original question, yeah, I find as far as the things that people are interested in the most, I think right now are the arena. We feel like stories about Acrisure Arena, how it's going, photo updates, our great photography team. I think people are getting a kick out of those, and kind of, because that's something palpable we saw in January 1st, let's say, nothing over there, and now there's a full-on arena that looks legitimate. It's kind of amazing how fast it came around. But I think right now people are interested in the arena. I think in 2 months, like you said, October 16th is the first game. That'll be up in Calgary, that when the Firebirds debut. So I think then we'll start to know how much people really care about, like, okay, they won tonight against Calgary, 3-2. This guy scored a goal. Like, it's going to take us a while, I think, to get into that kind of stuff as desert sports fans. But I think it's exciting. I can tell there's a lot of excitement, and I think for sports fans like you and me, there's millions of us here that are like transplanted. You've got your Minnesota teams, I've got my Michigan, Detroit teams. But here's something we can unify on. Hey, we're both Coachella Valley Firebirds fans now, unifying this unusual part of the world where there's so many different sports fans from all over. Now we've got this one team we can all kind of root for.
Yeah, and the first one, obviously, first full-time pro sports franchise in the desert. Have you guys had a lot of talks, continued talks internally about technique, styles of how you want to cover the season eventually, once it does start in October, and then once the Firebirds make their home debut in December?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions, but we sort of keep just sort of it's sort of like a Rubik's Cube we haven't figured out yet. Like, we just don't know what the interest level is going to be on a night-to-night basis. Like, our reader's going to expect us to have like at least a little story about the actual game every night, and maybe they will, because this is a pro team. We haven't had one here. And are we kind of considering ourselves the ambassadors of this team nationally too? People follow the AHL, so how are they going to know what happened in the Firebirds game on a Wednesday night if we're not they're helping to spread the word a little bit? And then if we do a feature story about a player, those kind of things, I'm sure will be interesting after a while. But at first, these are all, it's going to be an interesting experiment following a team like this that's, by nature transitional. Like, the second we have a player that we all love and scoring all kinds of goals, he might get called up to Seattle. That's what it's like. It'd be something similar to rooting for a AAA baseball team. But I think it'll be, we are having those discussions, and it's hard to kind of visualize something we haven't done before. But we are excited that it's coming, and to have something new to the rhythm of our sports coverage year calendar, I think will be pretty exciting. Right up until there's the hockey game during the tennis tournament during a high school. Then we'll be like, there's a hockey game on Sunday of the American Express, for example. How are we going to handle that? They're home the entire tennis tournament. So that'll be interesting, kind of straining our resources a little bit, but also like, which way do we go? You're right. It's going to be a whole new world for us when it comes to how to cover this team, but we're definitely going to blanket cover it as much as we can.
Get you out of here on this one, Shad. It's not apropos of nothing for those readily familiar with Shad's work, not just limited to the fields of sport, covered a lot of music and some great entertainment and film review columns at the Desert Sun. Just curious, man, A League of Their Own, the new series on Amazon Prime Video. Have you checked that out?
I've seen the trailer, and I'm kind of excited about it. I like all the actors and actresses that are in it. I think that's I could see that being a success. That's just a tale we all loved, obviously, when the movie came out. I feel like it's a rife area for interesting social perspectives as well, that sort of go well with the current state of affairs. So I think it'll be a hit. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it'll be hard to quickly get invested or quickly sort of forget about our favorite peaches from the old days and get into this new squad. Nick Offerman is the coach. I think I certainly like him. I know most people do. The Tom Hanks character. So I think it'll be, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a hit, but I have not watched an episode yet. Have you?
I've watched some of it, and
Okay.
I just kind of threw that one out at you out of nowhere. Some curious choices.
Okay.
I'm not saying for good or bad, but taking the story in a decidedly different direction. You and I will chat after you've had opportunity to get into a few episodes.
Okay, yeah.
Better Call Saul. Is that a show of yours?
Yes, that's actually my number one show, but
okay, no spoiler.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you, because you know how it is when you're married and you watch a show with your wife. My wife's actually out of town right now, and she's coming back on Wednesday. So we're the show was on Monday night. So I'm trying to like avoid all spoilers until Wednesday, because that's when we have to watch the finale. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I consider that to be the best show I've ever seen. Better Call Saul is my number one. It sort of zoomed past Breaking Bad, and The Americans was a show I kind of considered my favorite before that. But I think Better Call Saul is the best television show there's ever been to this point.
And I haven't watched the series finale from earlier this week either. I was kind of saving it, but I'm with you. We are certainly in concert in our belief in the excellence of what that program has accomplished, and kind of as an underdog in a way, following up from Breaking Bad, which also one of the top 10 shows ever in my estimation. But you feel that Better Call Saul ultimately usurped what Breaking Bad did.
I do. I don't know if that's unpopular thing to say, but no, I think it's just, there's something a little different about it in the filmmaking. It really feels like a movie every week. A lot of great TV shows do these days, but something extra special about Better Call Saul and those performances. I mean, the lead, Odenkirk, of course, Ray Seahorn plays Kim Wexler. It's amazing. I mean, they're just like unmatched talent right now. It's just so impressive to watch, and you're just on the edge of your seat every second.
Yeah, and part of the brilliance, again, in my estimation, of this final season, that was the kind of breadcrumbs in the black and white that took you past Breaking Bad into the future. And now this last season and these final episodes have had a lot of that, if not the majority of that, which again, haven't watched this finale yet, but to me, it's just been an exceptional way to close out this story. Yeah,
I know. Right? It's funny too. That it's funny that you also didn't watch the finale live. I texted my wife last night. I was like, well, what are we doing? Are we going to watch this, separately right now, or should we wait till you're home? And we decided to wait. So trying to avoid all, I jokingly put out on Twitter, if everyone that follows me on Twitter, if they could also wait till Wednesday, I'd appreciate it. But,
well, what is not to be avoided, of course, is Shad Powers' work at the Desert Sun. Follow him. Get a newspaper subscription for the tangible physical newspaper, or an online subscription at desertsun.com. Follow all the prep coverage that we talked about. Follow Shad's NFL picks, and who knows, maybe he'll have opportunity to do a column on a Better Call Saul recap. Appreciate your time, buddy. Looking forward to the football season ahead.
No problem. There are some good subscription deals right now, and some of them are for 3 months. Boom, that puts you right through the high school football season if you want to, dip your toe in.
Sure, you can find that. You want to post some of those deals on your Twitter account as well, which you should rightly do. I think that's Shad Powers. Do I have it right?
Yes.
Okay, I got that. Good to visit, buddy.
Awesome, man. I love being on the show, Judd. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks, man.